Hello, everyone. I'm Father Dan Carr. I'm the pastor of St. Regis Parish, and with the news of the passing of our Holy Father, Pope Francis, I wanted to record a video that shared a little something about my own experience as a priest. He became Pope my first year in seminary, so during 5 of my formative years of becoming a priest, and then my first 6 years plus of being a priest, he's been the Pope. He's been the pontiff who I kind of had looked up to and read things that he would publish, and well, that had an impact on how I am as a priest. So there may be others who will do videos that talk a little bit about his legacy and some of the most important things that he said and did. I'm not as qualified to talk about those things as I am to talk about my own experience. And I remember when I was in my second year of seminary, his first year as Pope, and he published kind of his biggest and most important, perhaps, papal document, Evangelii Gaudium, which is the joy of the gospel. And in that document, he said a lot of very important and perhaps profound things about how to do ministry and how to share the gospel, really. Because there are a lot of ways to share the gospel, and we live in a time when it can be hard to know how to share the gospel. I found as a priest in these last several years, there's a lot that I could do. There's a lot that I could spend time doing. But where do you choose to spend your time? Where is it that most of the fruit is born? And that is not always easy. And I suspect that's true also for parents who have children who are trying to figure out, how do I best spend time with my kids? When do we talk about different things? For me as a pastor, it became very clear to me that one of the best ways to spend my time is working with people one-on-one, making sure that they feel listened to, making sure that their voice is heard, and making sure when they are in trouble that they have someone that they know that they can come, who actually cares about them, who loves them as a shepherd loves his sheep, and will actually do for them what they need. And whether that's giving some guidance, maybe correction, but often a lot of encouragement and a lot of prayer. Pope Francis used a phrase in that document where he spoke about the church needing to be more like a field hospital. And what I like about that phrase is, if you think about a field hospital in the time of war and in the time of battle, you can imagine a soldier being brought into the station, and you can imagine maybe a good, well-doing doctor would sort of start by asking the typical questions of, let's take your temperature, let's take your blood pressure, let's see how your cholesterol's doing. That's not how a field hospital works. When somebody is there, they're probably injured, and there might even be a danger of bleeding out, that their life is threatened by something. And as a priest, it can be very easy for me to focus on the things like, does this person have a valid sacramental record? Is this person coming to church on Sunday? Does this person know how to pray? Are all the I's dotted and the T's crossed? And as important as those things are, when somebody comes to my office, normally that's not why they're there. They're there because something is wrong. Something hurts, they're suffering, they're confused, they're worried, they're anxious. This happens in my office, that happens in the confessional. And without that field hospital analogy, I wonder how I would react in those moments. But in that moment, I realized my primary goal is to be aware of, what do you need right now? How can I help you get through today? And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned from Pope Francis and the way that he is, that I'm all about the I's and the T's and making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But when I'm listening to somebody, I have to actually listen. And then I have to be willing to accompany them and walk with them and encourage them and listen to them. And then maybe start kind of saying, okay, well, to do this, we need to, here are the next steps, and here's how we move forward. And we'll move forward when you're ready. And let's take our time and let's do this the right way. But I'm going to be with you every step of the way. Because the biggest difference between somebody who isn't willing to accompany and one who does is, if somebody comes and you say, yeah, you're not ready. Come back to me when you're ready. That's not accompaniment. You're waiting for them to be ready in your way, but they need somebody now. So it might not be ideal. It might not be the perfect situation, but I'm going to be present to them. And I'm going to try and get them there. And I'm not going to let them walk off of a cliff. I'm going to keep saying, okay, this is the direction you want to come. All of that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. And sometimes you have to deal with situations that are just less than ideal. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned as a priest from Pope Francis when it comes to how you work with people and what people are looking for, because they don't need a savior. They do need somebody to believe with them. They need somebody who's going to walk with them, somebody that they believe is a fellow disciple. And in those moments, yes, I'm a priest, I'm a pastor, I'm a shepherd, but I'm also one of them. I'm one with them in that way. So regardless of how his legacy turns out, that's the impact that he's had on me as a priest. I've studied the theology and philosophy of John Paul II and Benedict XVI, and I love them dearly, but I'm indebted to Pope Francis in a special way for that pastoral side of things, for how you see people, how you work with people, and how you care for people. And so may he rest in peace.